There are seasons in life when Taurus no longer feels the need to speak much. Not because there is nothing left to say, but because you realize that some things, if spoken too soon, would lose their meaning. You used to explain yourself a lot. You tried to help others understand what you were thinking, what you were doing, where you were heading. But then, there came a moment when you chose silence. Not a heavy silence, not withdrawal filled with resentment, but a gentle step inward. Like the earth after a long rain, needing time to settle, to absorb, to become still again. In that quiet space, no one may know what you are going through. On the outside, everything still looks normal. But inside, something subtle is being rearranged. You begin to notice the thoughts that keep repeating in your mind. The old habits you once followed without awareness. You look again at the values that once made you proud, and also at those that no longer fit who you are becoming. No one witnesses this moment, because it is not loud. It feels like early morning, when the world is still asleep, and you are sitting alone with yourself. You may have once believed that real change had to come with big actions, big decisions, or dramatic turning points that others could clearly see. But over time, Taurus begins to understand something deeper. The most lasting transformations rarely begin in dramatic moments. They begin with honesty. With the courage to face what you once avoided. With the willingness to accept that some parts of you need adjustment, not to become someone else, but to live more truthfully as yourself. In silence, you learn not to react right away. You observe more. You listen more. You slow down long enough to tell the difference between what you truly need and what is only a temporary desire for validation. And in that quiet space, you begin rebuilding your foundation. Thoughts return to their proper place. Small habits change, patiently, one at a time. No one applauds, no one cheers. But inside there is a clear sensation, as if you are slowly learning to stand more firmly on your own feet. This silence is not an escape from the world. It is preparation. Preparation to return to life with a steadier version of yourself. Taurus no longer feels the need to prove that change is happening. You simply live in alignment with what you are building. And when the foundation is strong enough, you trust that everything above it will form naturally, in its own time. Not everyone will understand this phase. Some may think you have become distant. Some may feel that you are no longer the same. But that matters less now. Because you understand something essential. Before the world can recognize your change, you must be the first to feel it within yourself. And sometimes, the deepest transformation in a person's life begins in very quiet days. Days with no explanations, no announcements, only listening, and gentle inner adjustment. And then, something quietly unexpected happens. You realize you no longer feel the need to explain yourself. Not because you are tired, not because you have given up, but because you begin to trust that what is real does not need to be announced. If something is true, sooner or later, it will reveal itself. You no longer feel the urge to describe how much you have changed, how much you have grown, or what you have learned from past struggles. Words that once felt essential now feel unnecessary. You continue living. You continue working. You continue showing up in the most natural way you can. Not trying to appear strong, not trying to appear profound. Simply living in the new rhythm you have been quietly building. And right there, something subtle begins to shift. The reality around you moves just slightly. Not loudly, not with warning, but enough for you to feel it. It may be the way someone's gaze lingers a little longer during a conversation. It may be a pause in the room when you enter, not from tension, but from an attention that is difficult to name. It may be the way people begin to listen to you more fully, even though you speak far less than before. You are not trying to create this. It is simply the natural result of living differently. Others may not say anything. They may not even understand what exactly has changed, but they feel it. There is a steadiness about you now, quiet, unforced. A calm that does not come from everything being perfect, but from having learned how to stand firm even when things are uncertain. You no longer react impulsively. You no longer rush to prove you are right. You no longer need to be recognized immediately. And the interesting part is this. When you stop trying to convince anyone, you somehow become more convincing than ever. Not through words, but through how you move through ordinary moments of daily life. The way you choose silence instead of argument. The way you stay patient with things that once unsettled you. The way you walk forward slowly, but with certainty, unpulled by other people's expectations. You may also notice that you care less about how others evaluate you. Not because connection no longer matters, but because you have found a solid inner anchor. A place you can return to, even when the world around you still looks unsure. And that inner autonomy creates a quiet kind of magnetism. Gentle, but lasting. Reality begins to speak in its own way. Not through loud praise, but through doors opening naturally. Opportunities appear without you chasing them. Relationships feel more sincere, less noisy, yet deeper. You do not need to announce that you have changed. That difference is already present in each small choice you make, in every moment you choose to live in alignment with yourself. And somewhere within, you understand that this is only the beginning of a longer journey. A journey without signposts, without the need for immediate recognition. All that is required is that you continue walking as you are now, allowing reality to keep reflecting who you are becoming, in the most honest and natural way possible. And it is that very naturalness that makes everything feel different. Because when you stop trying to impress, each small choice you make becomes easier to see. Not in a dramatic moment, not in a sudden breakthrough, but in the steady rhythm of everyday life. You choose to wake up a little earlier to take care of yourself. You choose silence instead of reaction. You choose to do your work well even when no one is watching. These choices may seem ordinary, they are easy to overlook, but quietly, they begin shaping who you are becoming. Taurus has never been the type to change through sharp turns. You change the way the earth changes seasons, slowly, steadily, layer by layer. As each day passes, there may be no obvious sign to point to, but to someone paying close attention, it becomes clear that your rhythm has shifted. The way you speak is calmer now. The way you see situations is less extreme. The way you make decisions relies less on momentary emotion and more on deeper consideration. Because this transformation happens gradually, it does not make noise. There is no announcement, no moment meant to impress. And because of that, it is real. It is not easily shaken by outside opinions. It is not easily pulled backward by old habits. You do not need to maintain a new image, because you are not performing. You are simply living in a way that has become natural to you. When others begin to notice, their reaction is not shock. It is more like a pause. A moment where they look at you just a little longer and realize something no longer matches the old image they held. Not because you became someone else, but because you are no longer the version they once assigned to you. That quiet mismatch makes them reconsider. They may not say anything right away. They may only feel a slight confusion, a gentle surprise. But deep down, they understand something important. You have traveled a distance they did not follow. Not because you moved fast, but because you moved steadily. You did not quit halfway. You did not turn back each time things became difficult. You kept going, with small, consistent steps. And within you, a new clarity begins to settle. You no longer need to compare yourself to anyone. You no longer question whether you are good enough. You simply know that you are living more truthfully than before, aligned with your own rhythm, aligned with your values. This change does not require recognition to exist. It stands firm through the patient repetition of small choices, day after day. Choices that slowly shape a person you sometimes pause to notice, realizing that you have changed far more than you once imagined. And it is in that moment that a quiet lesson reveals itself. It does not need a name, yet it is clear enough to carry with you for the rest of the journey. You begin to understand that not everyone needs, or is even able, to fully understand your path. Some parts of the road are meant to be walked in the dark, where it is only you and very private questions. Trying to pull others in to explain, to be understood, can sometimes distort the very experience you are living. Patience now is no longer about waiting for results. It becomes about waiting until you grow strong enough to no longer need them. You learn to let time do its part. No forcing, no rushing, no need for someone else to nod in approval and confirm that you are on the right path. You begin to realize that some values cannot be measured by external feedback. They can only be felt when you sit with yourself in silence. At the same time, your sense of self-respect is being tested. There are moments when you stand before a familiar choice. Either adjust yourself to fit other people's expectations, or remain loyal to what you know is true, even if that means less attention, less praise, or even being misunderstood. In the past, you may have chosen the first option just to keep the peace, just to avoid being left behind. But now, Taurus begins to recognize the cost of that choice. You see more clearly that each time you betray yourself, even in small ways, it leaves a quiet mark within. And each time you choose to honor your boundaries, even when no one notices, something inside you becomes steadier. Not loud confidence, but a calm certainty. You may not be seen right away, but you no longer feel lost inside your own life. Perhaps you have learned to say no, even if your voice remains gentle. Perhaps you have learned to explain less, even if a trace of hesitation remains. And each time you do, you feel something real. You are standing on your own side. That feeling is very different from external validation. It lasts longer. It stays. Patience also teaches you that not every relationship needs to be held at all costs. Some people only knew an earlier version of you. And when you no longer fit that image, distance becomes unavoidable. In the past, this may have hurt. It may have made you wonder what you did wrong. But now, you begin to see it differently. Without blame. Without resentment. Simply accepting that each person can only walk with you for a certain part of the road. Holding on to self-respect during these phases is not easy. But Taurus has done it, slowly, step by step. You no longer trade inner peace for temporary attention. You no longer bend yourself just to be accepted. And in making those choices, quiet as they may be, you place an essential stone in the foundation of who you are becoming. A person who knows how to wait, who knows how to respect themselves, and who no longer needs to lose themselves just to be seen. Then something else begins to happen. Very gently, very slowly. So slowly that, if you are not paying attention, you might miss it. The way people look at you starts to change. Not the kind of change that makes someone speak out loud, but the kind that slips quietly into everyday life. A conversation that lasts a little longer than expected. A question asked with genuine interest, not just politeness. A moment where someone waits for you to finish speaking, instead of cutting you off the way they once did. You may notice that people begin to listen to you more carefully, even as you speak less. Not because you sound better, but because the way you show up has changed. There is a calm certainty about you now. Something steady. Something grounded. It makes others feel at ease around you. Not the kind of comfort that comes from having all the answers, but the sense that you do not need to prove anything in order to stand firm. This respect does not come from being superior. It does not come from a title or a position. It comes from living more consistently with your own values. You no longer shift your views just to please others. You no longer agree too quickly just to avoid silence. And that quiet clarity, though subtle, causes people to adjust how they meet you. You may notice that your words are weighed more carefully, not because others fear you, but because they sense that you value truth and kindness. When you stop speaking just to fill space, others stop responding carelessly. When you stop reacting out of habit, the space between conversations becomes deeper, slower, and more real. At times, this may surprise you. Not because you expected it, but because you never tried to make it happen. You simply lived more faithfully to what matters to you. And somehow, the world around you begins to respond. Not with loud praise, but with shifts in attitude. In how people give you their time. In how they offer their attention. You may also notice something even more subtle. As you respect yourself more, you begin to respect others more deeply as well. You listen without rushing to judge. You allow differences without needing agreement. And that calm presence creates a quiet circle where respect is no longer demanded, but offered and returned naturally. The change in how others see you is not the destination. It is only a small sign along the way. A reminder that when your inner strength is steady, you do not need to elevate yourself to be noticed. You only need to live truthfully, to live deeply, and to allow everything around you to adjust to the new rhythm you now carry. From there, relationships begin to move as well, in a very natural way, almost without any clear decision being made. There are no big conversations, no final declarations, just small spaces appearing then widening at the right time. Some people remain, quietly, steadily, just as they always have. Others slowly step back. Not because of conflict, but because the rhythm no longer matches. You begin to notice this in very ordinary details. Messages become less frequent. Plans no longer form as effortlessly as before. Conversations grow shorter, more surface level. There is no right or wrong in these changes. It is simply that when you no longer live as your old version, the relationships tied to that version no longer have a reason to stay the same. What feels different now is that you no longer feel compelled to hold on at all costs. There is no panic when someone drifts away, no fear that letting go means losing something essential. You understand that some people enter your life to walk with you for a certain distance, and when that distance ends, their departure is part of the natural order. No blame, no resentment, just acceptance. At the same time, those who truly align with who you are now tend to stay in a very quiet way. They do not require constant explanation. They do not ask you to return to who you once were. They accept your silence. They respect your new rhythm. They show up simply, yet consistently. They may not speak much, but you feel at ease when they are near. This filtering process does not feel like the heavy loss you once imagined. Instead, it creates space. Lighter, more open. You have room to breathe, room to think, room to listen to yourself again. You no longer strain to maintain relationships that exist only out of habit or fear of being alone. And in that gentle release, you begin to recognize the value of connections that are real. This also teaches you a different way to see attachment. Not every relationship that lasts a long time is meant for your present life. And not every distance means failure or loss. Sometimes it is simply a sign that you have grown, that you have gone deeper, that you now require connections that fit the person you are becoming. You do not need to make this happen. No logical sorting. No deciding who deserves to stay or leave. All you need to do is continue living in alignment with your own rhythm. Those who no longer fit will drift away naturally. Those meant to stay will find a way to remain. And over time, everything settles into its rightful place, gently, like a river finding its own course, without needing any direction at all. Within that quiet space, you begin returning to yourself more often, not to search for big answers, but simply to sit with what has already passed. There are ordinary evenings, nothing dramatic happening, yet something inside you settles. You remember the difficult seasons, the times when everything felt still, when your effort went unseen, when your persistence was not acknowledged. And instead of the bitterness you once felt, what rises now is a strange kind of softness. You begin to feel gratitude for those days, not because they were easy, but because they shaped a quiet endurance within you. When no one stood beside you, you learned how to stand on your own. When there were no words of encouragement, you learned how to comfort yourself. And in those silent moments, something steady began to form. Not loud, not visible, but strong enough to carry you forward. Humility arrives just as naturally. Not the kind that makes you feel small, but the understanding that your journey was never the result of willpower alone. There were moments when you did everything you could, and still could not control the outcome. There were doors that opened not because you were perfect, but because the timing was right. Once you see this, you stop comparing yourself to others. You stop blaming yourself when things do not unfold as expected. In these quiet moments, you might call this faith. Or perhaps it is simply a sense of peace that is hard to explain. No ritual required. No elaborate words. Just a gentle recognition that you were never truly walking alone. That something, whatever name you give it, was supporting you during moments when you thought you had nothing left to give. You begin to slow down here. You breathe more deeply. You notice small things more carefully. A quiet morning, late sunlight. A sense of calm when life is not perfect, but feels complete enough. This reflection does not pull you out of life. It allows you to be present within it more fully. And from this stillness, a new source of strength is quietly nourished. Not to conquer, not to prove anything, but to continue walking forward with a steadier inner posture. You do not need to speak what you believe. You simply hold it there, as an inner anchor. So that when the outside world grows loud again, you can return to this quiet place. A place where gratitude, humility, and silent resilience exist together, supporting you as you take the next step, in a way that feels deeply human and unmistakably real. And from that inner anchor, you begin to understand that there is no need to rush, no need to move faster than anyone else, no need to stop and wonder what others might be thinking. You simply keep going, at your own pace. What once needed to be proven no longer matters. What once needed to be explained has quietly fallen behind you. You know where you are now, and that is enough. The road ahead may still have turns. There may still be slow days. But the confusion is gone. You are steadier than before. Not because everything is perfect, but because you trust your ability to keep moving forward. You live in alignment with the values you have chosen. You live honestly with the emotions you carry. You live deeply inside each present moment. If someone notices, that is simply a natural result. The goal was never outside attention. It was always the quiet peace of walking forward, without needing to look back.